Hello everyone, Ross the music teacher here. Sorry it's been a while since you've seen me. I've been busy learning to develop software so that I can make music education software that makes practicing and learning music easier. But I want to just drop in real quick and share a little piece of advice that my best teacher gave me. His name's Benjamin Cantu. He might be in South Carolina or something now. And if you ever get a chance to study with him, do it. He's a very good teacher. What he told me was, be a musician that happens to play guitar. Don't be a guitar player. Guitar players are a dime a dozen, and oftentimes they're not any good at what they do. Now, what's the difference between a musician and a guitar player? A musician is somebody that focuses on the fundamentals of music and they bring that to the guitar, rather than thinking about guitar and then just learning whatever they have to about music in order to kind of get by. I know a lot of people that approach music from the standpoint of being a guitarist, and all of those people are not as good as they could be. And I know a lot of people that are really excellent musicians, and their ability on the guitars, it speaks for itself. Now, being a good musician does not mean you're going to have good guitar technique. You're going to have to practice your technique, and every good musician knows the importance of technique, so it's kind of included in that package. But if you have great guitar technique and all you know are scale shapes and chord shapes, and you're not sure how to fit them together, and you're not sure how to count the rhythms, then I really advise that you step back and learn your fundamental music theory, learn your fundamental counting, and really get to know that fretboard in terms of notes, not just chord and scale shapes. Chord and scale shapes do not a musician make. You actually have to know how those scales are built, how they fit together, and how to use them, and how to use them with other people. And hopefully you can play more than just the guitar. So this piece of advice, the reason I decided to drop in and share it with you is I've been basically locking myself away to learn how to code, and I'm coming very, very far with it. And the reason that I'm able to get to the point where I am now in about 9 months is because somebody, Stefan Mischuk, actually, he's got a channel on YouTube here. He's a coding guru. He is always stressing the importance of knowing your coding fundamentals, being really good at a language, and knowing how things work and how things are put together, and not being super concerned with being I'm a person that's doing this framework or that framework, or constantly being distracted by new guitars, right? So I've adapted that approach with learning to code. I've adapted it with skateboarding, which is something I've been doing for over 20 years, and it works. It works, it works, it works, it works. So for you, here are some practical tips to become a better musician and therefore a better guitarist within the next handful of months. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you got to work for it. 1, know your basic theory. You got to learn how to spell chords. You got to learn how to spell scales. You got to know how to use those chords and scales, and you got to know how to borrow from chords and scales around the key that you're in. I see a lot of guitar and music gurus out there putting out endless videos of how to fit this chord with that chord. And honestly, you can watch my 1-hour music theory video and then just take that knowledge to the stuff you're practicing, and you'll see all those chord progressions pop out, and you don't actually need somebody to spoon feed you every single chord progression and how it works and why it works, because music theory just follows a couple basic fundamental principles, and if you understand them, then they snowflake out from there. 2, count. Always count. Always count. If you're not counting your rhythms, you're not doing it right. No excuses. Sorry, guys. If you're not counting your rhythms, you're not doing it right. Period. And that's the most painful lesson for people to learn, especially strummer and singers. There are a lot of strummer/singers that can only do one strumming rhythm, and they can't do it very well at that. And maybe their voice sounds really good, but by God, their guitar playing really needs work. And it's not actually just the guitar playing, it's the counting. And if you can learn to count, then you don't have to practice so much because you know how to play the rhythms already. And number 3, measure your practice. You need to have a somewhat omnivorous approach to your practice. It's very easy to get into tunnel vision mode where it's like, oh, I got to learn this song, I got to learn this song, I got to learn this song. No, you need to step back and do an analysis of the song. You need to step back, ask yourself, what are the rhythms, what are the chords, where are the chords coming from, and build your overall musical knowledge through studying the stuff that you're working on. And then the next song you approach, you're likely to find that same pattern in. And to be quite frank, with anybody that's very interested in pursuing popular music, there's only so much to it. The chord progressions are reused over and over and over and over again, and just because somebody strung a C, a G, and a D together does not mean that they're a genius. They're very far from a genius. There's very common and very effective chord progressions out there that sound awesome, and you don't need to learn every single mode on the planet to be able to effectively write songs using very, very solid and basic music theory. So that's a little bit of advice for you guys. I'd like to do a couple announcements here. I'm working on a software app that's going to work in the web where you're going to be able to set these different musical goals and break them out over periods of months and track how many times that you've done repetition and keep yourself on a track where you have enough repetition but not too much. And I will also be starting a new book here in the next couple months too, once my coding classes die down a little bit. I'm doing roughly 6 hours a day of that. So I'm very busy doing it. It's going to be a little while before I start the other book. I'm not sure what it's going to be on yet. So if you want to make a request on a new book, go ahead and just make that request down there in the comments. One way or the other, guys, musicians make great guitarists. Guitarists are usually sloppy musicians. So there you have it. Happy practice.